We'll stay with us now and speak to Matthew Cruz, energy expert at Impower. Matthew, good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. So, I wonder if the decision by Eskom to implement stage 6 load shedding yesterday took you by surprise?
Yes, yeah, it definitely did come by surprise. I had noticed that Eskom was on the border of load shedding by firing diesel turbines up to stage 2 and 3 for the week leading up to the load shedding, which indicated to me that once again, similar to over January and February, they were on the border of dipping into load shedding. And unfortunately, it was at that exact time that we had 2 whole stations trip off the grid, both Majuba and Camden. And we heard from Eskom what the direct cause of the tripping was. But I'm not hearing as yet from Eskom the root cause for the load shedding actually taking place, which, in my opinion, is that we're not able to bring our energy availability factor of our power stations above 60%. It's been below 60% for the last 3 months. And we've been using diesel to mitigate up to stage 3 load shedding during the last 3 months. And as a result, then when there is an issue like this, there's very little reserve margin. That should be around 4,000 megawatts, but Eskom's been keeping it at about 1,000 megawatts recently. So there's not much margin for when there is catastrophic failures like this for a whole power station going out. And as soon as they have a failure, then we go into stage 3 and then quickly into stage 6. So it did take me very much by surprise, even though I had projected that we should have load shedding returning in Q1 of this year.
And one wonders then how much of a factor will inclement weather, particularly the rain, also add into this equation? Because if you then are having, for example, those who've got solar panels and they say that they were not able to use them and then now are having to rely on Eskom, at the same time then Eskom not able to also, mitigate this particular need, how much of that further complicates this picture?
Yes, that definitely did contribute towards the stage 6 severity of the load shedding. A couple of factors there to consider is that the poor weather of the rain was covering then the solar panels. We hear there's about 3,500 megawatts of solar panels installed on solar farms, and then private industry has come to the party and installed a further 6,000 megawatts on business roofs and household roofs, which mitigates around 6 stages of load shedding during the day. Mm-hmm. So they weren't that effective, but a larger impact, in my opinion, is there was very little wind contribution. We usually expect around this time to get about 2,000, 2,500 megawatts of wind power from our wind farms, but that was down to about 300 megawatts to 500 megawatts as there was very low wind happening. So it was a bit of a perfect storm, as Eskom explains. It is unfortunate that this is the second perfect storm now in the month of February. So, load shedding, in my opinion, has returned now. We've seen a reversal of the trend. And it remains to be seen how many more perfect storms happen over the coming months as we head into winter, when we can expect there to be more demand coming onto the grid as people need to warm their houses and businesses use more electricity.
It sounds like you're saying to us we must prepare ourselves for more of the same?
So yes, unfortunately, it's a bit gloomy. That's, looking at the data, Eskom has been struggling to get above 60% of their EAF, as previously mentioned, where that target was 65%. By the end of the year, they were meant to be at 65% consistently throughout the year, and they haven't been able to bring it up above 60%. And that 65% was meant to be including the planned outages that occur over summertime, as they kind of explained to us, it's short-term pain for long-term gain. We did hear that 2 years ago, and it makes me wonder then, if this pain that we experienced 2 years ago for long-term gain, and now this pain again experienced now, that's seemingly pain that's continuously being experienced. So it doesn't seem that short-term, the pain. So unfortunately, as we go into winter, we are not able to produce enough electricity, as we can see, and going then with the colder weather, we can expect then load shedding to become more frequent, unfortunately.
There's a myriad of proposals, right, and efforts that the Gauteng Premier tonight was talking about when it comes to dealing with the issue of, load shedding and electricity in the province. But one of them, which I just want to pick your brain on, he says, to improve municipal revenue collection and reduce energy losses, we've installed more than 3,000 smart meters across Mfuleni, Mogale City, Rand West, Mirafong and Lesedi. We've installed 45 solar high mast lights in crime-prone communities, improving security while also reducing the pressure on the grid. Are these high mast lights working?
So there would be a couple of ways in which the efforts that he's put forward, that they have put forward, will assist with reducing load shedding. So apart from the lights, reducing the demand on the grid, and yes, they are assisting in bringing down the load, as the electricity that would usually be used for powering those lights is now gathered during the day with solar panels and then used through the batteries, the solar power to power them at night. So that is less of an impact, in my opinion, that the smart meters will have. And interestingly, the smart meters, what we find they actually do in terms of bringing down the overall usage of the households that receive them and the businesses, is they allow the person in the house or the people in the house to observe their energy usage in real time and get a real understanding of, now I've put my oven on, oh, I see my electricity is increasing in terms of its use. I've got lots of lights on the house. Oh, I'm using a lot of electricity. And it becomes more of a front of mind thing, or they become more aware that they're using more power. And then as a result, we notice when a smart meter is put into a house that the behavior changes and then electricity use is reduced. That's the one side of the coin. We also think that there has been a lot of efforts to reduce electricity use because of the price of electricity recently. So it remains to be seen how much of an impact it does have. But that awareness of your electricity use has been found to reduce the overall usage of households. And so then that also then brings down the demand on the grid.
So there's something else that they talk about, among others, concluding a waste to energy that will yield around 212 megawatts, with Tshwane contributing 112 megawatts, City of Johannesburg 35, Ekurhuleni 65, revitalizing the old Johannesburg power station to give us 200 megawatts, and BRICS partners investing in a solar farm in Soshanguve, which will give 100 megawatts when completed, after investing 1 megawatt microgrid in Amarasta, in Alexandra Township, and also saying that they are now looking at the transformers in the townships and saying, with time, the combination of all the above efforts will work out to almost 2,000 megawatts, which will ultimately benefit the energy improvement of Gauteng. Gauteng's energy future is one of sustainability, resilience, and innovation. Does this work out in a way that it alleviates the pressure from the grid, but also to assist the residents of Gauteng when it comes to dealing with some of the energy issues they would be facing?
Yes, I do believe it does. Those efforts, unfortunately, do sound a bit small and a bit kind of too little too late in terms of what should have been done. In my opinion, plans should have been put in place 5 years ago in order to avoid this energy crisis. But they are steps in the right direction. So to talk about those megawatts, you mentioned 2,000 megawatts is 2 stages of load shedding. And already we see we're in 6 stages of load shedding, but it all counts and it all helps. So one of the exciting progressions that you mentioned there is solar farms. And for example, my company, Impower, we participate in putting down solar farms in municipalities. And what that allows is City Power is going to now not rely so heavily on Eskom's electricity. They'll be providing themselves power and also waste to energy, as you mentioned, and then refurbishing and bringing back to life some old generation assets. That removes then City Power's and the City of Joburg's reliance on Eskom. And this is going to be a trend that continues and increases and accelerates across the country. As we also here in Cape Town, we see that the City of Cape Town is investing in a lot of renewable energy, particularly paired with battery solutions, so that power can be provided at night from renewable energy. And this I see as the next kind of revolution in the private sector in South Africa, where we're assisting in the democratization and the provision of power to the nation from the private industry, and not just relying solely on Eskom as we have for the last 30 years. So these efforts, I do think, are providing a good step in the right direction. I think that they unfortunately will be a bit delayed, or they'll take a bit of time to come online, as we can expect them to only kind of really be all online in 2 years. I know that there's given like short timelines, which we've seen many times before, of 6 months, but actually in reality it's going to be more like 2 years. Then it'll be online. And it remains to be seen then how the old coal power stations hold up during that time as we go into winter this year and next year. So yeah, they are steps in the right direction, but it remains to be seen if they're effective.
All right, thank you so much, Matthew, for your time. Appreciate your insights. Winter's coming, certainly my favorite season, but not looking forward to it now that you've painted that picture for us. But appreciate your time. Thank you. That was Matthew Cruz, the energy expert at Impower.